All right, well, hello and welcome, my friends. I'm the Kodiak Broncos Podcast, and today I'm here to talk about 5 things to watch for in 2025 Denver Broncos training camp. But first of all, I just want to mention a couple things. First of all, thank you for all the support on that little documentary video I put out. Um, for those of you who are new to my channel, that's not really my style. But if you like me and you like what I have to say about the Broncos, then stick around because I love talking Broncos. It's one of my favorite things, and hopefully you guys will come along for the ride this season as well. So, first of all, the things that I want to talk about in today's video, I'm more interested in. These are 5 things I'm interested in looking at when we go into 2025 training camp. But number one, I'm interested to see how the offense holds up against the defense. I'm not interested really to see our defense against our offense because I expect our defense to be dominant. I expect our defense to be firing on all cylinders. I expect them to pick up right where they left off last year. I expect them to be very, very good. I expect them to make Cam Ward's life miserable week one. But I expect the defense to have the upper hand most days in this upcoming training camp, and rightfully so. But I'm expecting more of a 60-40 split. But here's the thing. If the offense that's very, very young and still, putting a lot of the parts together can make it like a 50-50 split, that'd be absolutely phenomenal. And we have a defensive line that's going up against a very expensive offensive line, and vice versa. We invest heavily on the trenches on both sides of the ball, so it'll be interesting to see how iron sharpens iron there. But overall, if like the offense can kind of match what the defense, is giving them and be like, I don't know, as good as them, equal days, then that'd be absolutely fantastic. Once again, you got to believe that our offense will be a lot better practicing versus our defense as well. And once again, I'm expecting the defense to be better early on just because they're returning 10 out of 11 starters and they have the defensive coordinator. They didn't lose very many coaches on the defensive side of the ball as opposed to offense. So yeah, that's what I'm expecting with our offense versus our defense. So number 2, Barron versus Riley Moss, the boundary corner battle. And hold on real quick. I'm just going to show you where my opinion lies with this one. The guy behind me right there. So the reason why I think Moss will be the boundary corner is, first of all, I think a lot of Broncos fans have completely lost the plot with Riley Moss. I think the media and people who talk about the Broncos are much higher on Riley Moss than a lot of the fan base because that T. Higgins game is still fresh in their minds. But you got to realize that he was playing very, very well before that. And he came back from his, sprained MCL with the toughest wide receiver 2 assignment in the entire league. And obviously he didn't have a good day. But, I feel like a lot of Broncos fans have completely lost the plot with Riley Moss in general. He is still a very, very good corner. And, with Jahdae Barron, I expect Barron to be more of a deployed as a nickel and, used more at safety rather than outside. Because I think Moss has, obviously NFL experience, even though Barron was a better prospect than Moss coming out. But, listen, Jahdae Barron, he is still, around 6 foot-ish kind of guy. He's still sub 200 pounds, whereas Riley Moss, it clears both of those by a decent margin. So yeah, I just think that Moss is going to be more physical. I think Moss is going to bring the physicality that they're looking for on the outside. But here's the caveat. I think it's better to have Moss on the outside and Barron on the inside than Barron on the outside and Moss on the inside. Not to say that Moss can't play inside or anything, but this is one thing that really stuck out to me with Jahdae Barron's game. I think he's going to be a lot better manning up against slot receivers than he is manning up against outside receivers. And obviously, when you put him on the inside, he can defend the run a lot better, or he's one of those guys who can defend the run really well. He's one of those guys that you can even line him up in the box if you see fit. And once again, I expect to see deployed at corner Patrick Surtain, Riley Moss, and Jaquan McMillan on some plays. But I also expect to see Jahdae Barron out there as well. Maybe even maybe we run 6 DB sets. Who knows? But yeah. And I expect us to base out of nickel too. Now, whether that's Barron, Moss, and Jaquan McMillan, those are probably all going to be interchangeable. I expect Abrams Drain to get his run as well. But yeah, overall, just look to see what the secondary personnel looks like in training camp as well. Number 3, I want an update from George Payton and Sean Payton on contract situations. So here's the deal. I expect one of Allen, Benito, Sutton, or John Franklin Myers to get done this upcoming year, or I should have said this upcoming week, and rightfully so. Any of these 4 guys, if we end up extending them, I'm going to be like, great. They deserve it. I, in particular, want Zach Allen and Nick Benito to get done as soon as possible because of the cost of potentially waiting on those. And usually, the team is tight-lipped on these things. This is the way it's been with George Payton since he's taken over as our GM, which is a stark contract to the Elway days where things usually get done at the last minute. And they did have a little tendency to get messy. Like when you have to franchise tag a kicker like we did with Matt Prater that one year, that's how you know things are kind of iffy at best. But listen, I don't expect anyone to hold out. Like I think if we were looking at guys that were truly unhappy, maybe JFM, I feel like we could have heard a lot more by now, even if that was the case. Realistically, I don't think we're going to be able to keep all four dudes. So yeah, I think, as far as the pecking order, obviously, Alan Benito, that's one or two. You can flip those around, and I will have no arguments about where you want to put their importance. But Sutton and JFM, I do think they kind of take a backseat to those two, just because I think our team's success is not as contingent on those two as it is Allen and Benito. But yeah, I want to hear an update from Sean Payton and George Payton, even though they're probably not going to say anything. They're probably just going to be like, yeah, we've had good discussions with their agents and the time will come. And honestly, that's what Benito kind of said during his training, like his kids' training camp or whatever. He was like, I just stick to football and I let my agent do the talking to the team. Number 4, deployment of guys behind Sutton. So this is basically looking at how our wide receiver room is going to shake out coming into the new year. Keep an eye on Pat Bryant. Keep an eye on Troy Franklin. Keep an eye on Marvin Mims and Devon Vele. And also, with Franklin Mims and Vele in particular, you got to keep an eye and see how they've developed. Like, I'm really interested to see what areas of their game have they improved on. What areas of their game does the coaching staff feel like are in now that they didn't have last year? Because we saw Franklin, I don't know, the chemistry just wasn't there with Bo. Mims, he did take a big leap last year, same with Filet in the second part of the year, but Mims ultimately still was just a gadget guy who could run really, really good deep routes at certain points. And, if he develops a short to intermediate game, that'd be absolutely fantastic as well. But Devon Filet is just an absolute baller. And obviously the coaching staff clearly likes him. They clearly think he's well beyond his years. I mean, even though he's a 27-year-old rookie, you know what I mean. Like, he played very, very well last year in the second half of the season. And yeah, overall, I think that if Franklin and Mims were to develop as pure Zs, that's something that I'd be really interested in. But yeah, overall, let me know who you think takes the most snaps at wide receiver 2 this upcoming year, because it could be any of these guys. Like, if you had told me that, all right, Sutton's going to have the most snaps on the team this upcoming year, I would think that's a given. He's going to be, when you only have one wide receiver on the field, he's going to be the wide receiver on the field just because A, he's a really good blocker, and B, he has been Bo Nix's go-to guy. But all these other guys have traits that the coaching staff could really, really like and get a lot of good utilization out of. And they could complement Evan Ingram and RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins really, really well. All three of the intermediate short-term weapons or short yardage weapons that we added and run game weapons that we added to our run game and our passing game this past year. Sorry, it kind of sounds like I had a stroke when I said that, but yeah, that's kind of the way I'm feeling. Number 5, Alex Forsyth versus Clay Webb versus Nick Gargiulo versus Xavier Truss. So, listen, I know a lot of people are down on Forsyth after the monumental gaffe versus Kansas City on the field goal blocking unit, and rightfully so. But the others we've seen absolutely nothing from. But with Forsyth, it was one of those where it's just like, all right, he kind of had the inside track, and a lot of people thought that he was going to win the center spot last year when there was a battle. And then he really didn't. Not to say that he played bad when he came in as relief or whatever, but yeah, the field goal block thing was pretty unforgivable in my opinion. Clay Webb, this is another guy who I think he has the highest chance out of any UDFA to actually make our 53-man roster, simply because outside of Palczewski, he's the only backup lineman that I feel good about keeping on this roster. Like, Palczewski's going to make this roster, but Parrott is a question mark. It's a question mark to see who makes it between all four of these guys. What happens with Rockborn as well. Is he even still on the team? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, the interior offensive line depth is a little thin. Like, I'm talking thin as in you don't really know what you're getting out of it. I expect Zach Strief to get good play no matter the 5 guys that go out there every single week. But regardless, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who ends up getting the backup offensive line spots. And I don't know. I don't know if Clay Webb can play center. I know he played left guard a ton last year at Jacksonville State. But yeah, so this is what I'm really interested in. A few other things I didn't mention: RB3, Jaleel versus Estime. I'm also really interested in Singleton versus Sanders versus Strnad, even though you know where my loyalties lie with that, or who I don't think should win that one. But yeah, that basically does it for me. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Mile high salute.